Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to Cinematic Reviews. As always, I will be your host, Chris, and this is a show about all things movies and TV. Well, we closed the book on Phase 1 of Marvel Fridays last Friday with The Avengers. Now we kick off Phase 2 with Iron Man 3, the third solo installment of Robert Downey Jr.'s journey as Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's been a blast so far, and I'm super excited for Phase 2. We have a Christmas show coming up next week that'll premiere on Christmas Eve, so feel free to tune in for that and watch that with your family at home and enjoy the holiday. That movie will be released or will be announced, at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for the end while I announce that movie. We'll also be doing a review episode sometime next week on Avatar Fire and Ash, the newest sequel to the Avatar franchise, brought to you by James Cameron. And then also check out my football podcast every week as well from Quantum Podcasts, where I recap the previous week and predict winners and losers of the following week. We're getting closer and closer to the NFL playoffs. We have fantasy playoffs going right now. So if you're a huge football fan, go ahead and check out that podcast. It is the End Zone Report. I do that once a week, usually coming out on Wednesdays or Thursdays. It'll be a little late this week with some scheduling conflicts. That'll come out probably Sunday before the games, but I will get that episode out for you all as well. Couple of reminders before we get into today's news and reactions. Follow the show every week at youtube.com/the cinematic reviews. You can also listen to the audio version on your favorite podcast listening service, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and many more services. Also check out the Facebook, X, and Instagram page. That's where I post all the artwork from the episode for you guys to take a closer look, comment, like, even share if you feel so to do. With that, let's head into news and reactions. We have 3 reactions from streaming services that I finally get to cover on the show. And then we have an unfortunate passing that happened last week. And so we'll talk about that as well. So let's head over to news and reactions for today's episode. To unfortunately kick off news and reactions this episode, we have to talk about the untimely death of Mr. Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. Rob Reiner, of course, actor, director, Hollywood icon, and then his wife were found brutally stabbed to death in their own home in Brentwood by their daughter, Rami. I'm sorry if I can't not pronouncing that right. I am terrible names, but she was the one that found Rob and Michelle in their home, stabbed to death. It was later released by investigators that their throats were cut as well. Their son, Nick Reiner, has been officially arrested for their murder. He is now being held in jail, awaiting trial for their murder. I believe his bail was like 50 grand, or not 50 grand, probably in the millions, I think it was. Let me look this up here. I'm still gathering details as they come out. He is looking up to a max sentence of life without parole. He was originally arrested under suspicion, but it seems to be pretty clear that he is the prime suspect in this unfortunate incident. Okay, so he has been arrested without bail. So originally it was reported that he had a bail set, but now it looks like they have corrected that, and he is being held under arrest without bail, which is good. I mean, this is a truly violent crime that we are talking about, but it's just very tragic and very surprising. Like, this is most of the time you're like, I hope this actor, lives to their 100, dies in their sleep, yeah, and all that. But to go out like this by not only, multiple stab wounds, violent crime, but by your own family member, your own son, your own flesh and blood, murdering you, it's just truly tragic. And as more details get released Of course, I will inform everybody via the social media pages for the show, as well as part of the news and reactions on whichever episode's coming out. We will update any breaking news as far as sentencing, trial events that will happen. I mean, this will be a pretty big trial. Right here, it says that Nick Reiner could be facing the death penalty because of special circumstances was added to the murder charges. Looks like his son, Rob and Michelle's other son and daughter, are the ones who survived them. Looks like he is facing life without parole, but like I said, he's also going to be facing the death penalty as well. They include special circumstance of committing multiple murders, which increases the possibility of punishment. Ergo, the death penalty is on the table. Looks like new details are emerging. It was Sunday afternoon when a massage therapist arrived at the White Gated home in Brentwood for a scheduled appointment for Rob and Michelle. The couple was scheduled to have dinner with Barack and Michelle Obama. Getting no answer at the gate, the massage therapist then called Rob and Michelle's daughter, who then quickly came by with a roommate. She walked in and found her father's body and the gruesome scene of his death, which is very, very unfortunate that she had to walk into that. Nick Reiner officially charged with murder of his parents. Prosecutors on Tuesday formally charged Nick Reiner with murdering his parents. The Hollywood Fixers and Democratic Party heavyweights Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner. The son faces 2 counts of first-degree murder, with prosecutors requesting that they be considered under special circumstances, in part because there were multiple murders. This can add time to a sentence if convicted, and then, of course, it can also add the death penalty on the table as well. The district attorney of LA said that Nick Reiner would be charged with special circumstances. And then he said one of the circumstances in this case was that Reiner was accused of course, multiple murders. That was December 16th. So this is going pretty quickly. This will be a very high-profile trial for a Hollywood icon and his spouse. That looks like all the details that I can find as of right now. Yeah, so we will update you, of course, as things get released via social media pages, and then the show, of course, whatever episode comes out around that time. So, thoughts and prayers, of course, go out to Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner, to their friends, families. This is truly tragic passing. Rob Reiner is an incredible director, incredible actor. We did the Wolf of Wall Street episode on the show this year. So if you feel like reminiscing on some really good Rob Reiner content, go ahead, check out that episode on the show. Go and watch some of his movies that he was a part of. And he will be greatly, greatly missed. And yeah, this just sucks. This is not on my bingo card for 2025. And it really sucks that it's towards the end of the year. And this is what we're going to end with in 2025. It's truly, truly tragic. So, yeah, it sucks. Moving on to something hopefully a little bit more cheerful here. We're going to go through 3 streaming projects that I finally get to react to. We have Alien Earth, which is currently streaming on Hulu. All 8 episodes have been out for a while. This is a show that I just couldn't do the week-to-week stuff. I wanted to binge it all together, and I was able to do that in a couple of days. We'll also do the Knives Out installment, Wake Up Dead Man, which is the 3rd installment in the Knives Out kind of universe that Rian Johnson has created, starring Daniel Craig. That one is currently streaming on Netflix. And then we'll also talk about the It, Welcome to Derry series that is currently on HBO Max. All those episodes have released as well. I did do that one week to week because I just really enjoyed that show so much. Each episode got better and better and better. So that one for sure I was watching week to week, and I've really much enjoyed it. So, but first we're going to get to Alien Earth. Like I said, this is on Hulu. This is hopefully one of the many projects of Alien coming out. It seems to be having a really good reception from audiences and fans alike. Looks like season 2 will premiere in 2026, actually. And I think right now they have a current story of spanning 3 seasons. Will we get more? I guess that'll depend on the creators of the show. If they feel like 3 seasons is enough, or maybe they want to expand it to 4 or 5 seasons. Only time will tell. But for sure, we are getting a season 2 that will premiere at some point in 2026. This is so I had to kind of look this up because Alien is a franchise where the timeline really confuses me. So Alien Earth takes place 2 years before the original Alien, and then of course after Alien Covenant. So those are the prequels, and this is kind of a prequel sequel, so to speak. But this is a couple of years before Alien. My prediction so far is that how they end this show will probably lead directly into Alien. So you should be able to just kind of watch it all the way through. Just like Star Wars, for example, they did the Andor show, and then you can basically lead you right into Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and then you can just roll right into Star Wars: A New Hope. So I'm thinking that's what they might be doing here with Alien Earth, where they'll end this kind of series, and then it'll lead directly into that first Alien, and you can just kind of binge this entire story. I hope that's true, and it sounds like really awesome way to go about it. But like I said, only time will tell. But focusing on Alien Earth, there is 8 episodes to watch. Each of them are about 45 to an hour minute long. So not a terribly long commitment for sure, but each episode has little nuggets and really good action. The things they do with the xenomorph in this show is beyond anything we've seen so far, even in like Prometheus and Alien Covenant, which have been the newest installments along with Romulus. What they did with the xenomorph is just insane, with the action, with the violence, with Wendy, the synthetic that is kind of the lead character in this story, the way she's able to communicate with the xenomorphs. It's really, really cool. They introduced a lot of different concepts throughout this show that we haven't really quite dove into in this Alien franchise for sure. But this show is incredible. To kind of give you a synopsis of it, when a mysterious space vessel crash lands on Earth, a young woman and a ragtag group of tactical soldiers make a fateful discovery that puts them face to face with the planet's greatest threat, which is the xenomorph. They've got an incredible cast for sure. Sydney Chandler plays Wendy. Then we have Alex Luthor, who plays her brother Joe, who I only have seen in an episode of Black Mirror, but he has been slowly kind of getting more in the limelight for sure. Timothy Oliphant actually shows up in here as a Kirsch. He is kind of this mad scientist synthetic that it's kind of I guess he oversees the lab, I guess is the best way to say it. He works with a trillionaire child that is kind of spearheading this entire facility and the experimentation of all these different creatures from space. You have a competing company that ship that I mentioned in the synopsis that crashes to Earth. They actually own that ship. They own those creatures, but then the trillionaire child kind of takes it over through some legal hoops, and then he starts experimenting on them. And the creatures in here are really cool. I hope we get some more of this in season 2, where you just kind of expand the universe a little bit beyond these xenomorphs. You get, these weird bugs that are flying around. You get this eyeball with the legs crawling around where it'll rip out your eyeball, go into your eye socket, and basically mind control you. That scene with the goat was very violent, but it was really cool how they were able to bring that on the screen, where you actually see the goat's eyeball get thrown out by the eye and then goes right into the eye socket, and you can see the goat slowly turn into this like mind controlled zombie thing being controlled by this eyeball alien. It's just really cool, the stuff that they were able to do in here. I already mentioned the ranking. This is number 1 on my ranking list for Alien. I'm going to pull that list up here. I think this is the best xenomorph that we've seen. I think this is the best project that we've seen. We've got, 8 projects so far. So number 1, I have Alien Earth. 2, we have Aliens, which is the sequel to the original Alien. 3 is Prometheus. I really, really like Prometheus. 4, Alien Romulus, which I absolutely loved. You can check out that review episode when that came out. Then the first Alien I have at number 5. 6 is Alien Covenant. 7, Alien Resurrection. And then 8 is Alien 3, which we can go shoot outside in the back because that is just not a great movie. But it is within the Alien universe. But that is Alien Earth. Really, really enjoyed it. On the popcorn scale, I gave it 5 popcorn buckets. One of my favorite shows of the year so far. There's a couple of more shows I need to watch to finalize my top 5 of the year, but this is definitely a contender in top 5 shows of the year. Absolutely love it. So check out Alien Earth on Hulu right now. All 8 episodes are streaming, and then season 2 will be coming in 2026, it looks like. So let's switch over to Netflix with Wake Up a Dead Man, the newest installment of the Knives Out saga. Daniel Craig returns as Detective Benoit Blanc. I totally butchered that. We're just going to call him Blanc. The thing with Knives Out is you get a pretty incredible cast. You know, we had, in the first one, we had like Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Jamie Lee Curtis, Michael Shannon popped up in there. The second one, Glass Onion, we had Edward Norton, Dave Bautista, Catherine Hahn. Of course, Daniel Craig returns again. And then now here we get another incredible cast of characters. We've got Glenn Close, we've got Josh Brolin, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner pops up, Adam Scott, like Thomas Hayden Church, Jeffrey Wright, who shows up for one scene, but he is in there. That's a really fun thing about Knives Out. Kerry Washington, who I absolutely love. The Knives Out universe is really grabbing all these iconic actors and just pitting them in this, Clue style story. Where in this installment, we have a kind of a small community of religious people who attend this church. Monsignor Jefferson Wicks, is played by Josh Brolin, is the person that is murdered in this installment, and so everybody is a suspect. Jeremy Renner, Glenn Close, Josh O'Connor, who is the newest comer of this kind of closed off community. Thomas Hayden Church is even a suspect because he lives there. This one is not the best that I've seen. I wasn't a huge fan of Glass Onion for the most part, but I was really not a fan of this one. I was actually quite bored through a lot of this one. The only reason I sticked around was because Daniel Craig is fantastic as Blanc. I love this character that he has kind of grown into and become. And that's what really got me to stick around for this one. It is third on the ranking list for the Knives Out universe. And then I gave it 2 popcorn buckets because the cast is great. Like Josh Brolin is really entertaining in here. Glenn Close is always great. I love seeing Mila Kunis. Jeremy Renner seems to be kind of closed off in this movie and kind of in a different movie altogether. Kerry Washington's always great to see. But really what gives it enough enjoyment to stick around to the very end is Daniel Craig. And the reveal of kind of how the events take place isn't really creative. It turns out like everyone was involved at some point, and there was this secret hiding amongst the group where Josh Brolin actually fathered one of them, and it was out of greed and money to where Josh Brolin was killed, and then they end up killing each other. It just when it started to unravel and unfold and reveal itself, it's just like wasn't very entertaining to me. So I gave it 2 popcorn buckets. It's not the worst movie I've seen this year, but it's definitely bottom tier of 2025 for sure. I wasn't really enthusiastic about this installment anyways because I wasn't a huge fan of Glass Onion. The first Knives Out is an incredible movie, and if they would have just kept it at that, I would have been just fine. We don't really need sequels to that. And then Glass Onion was coming out, and they've announced this, expanding of the franchise, and I wasn't really a fan of it to begin with. So maybe I had some preconceived notions or preconceived emotions as I went into this movie, and maybe you can make an argument that it kind of makes me biased towards liking this or not liking it. But I think just looking at it on the surface, it's not a great movie, and it's definitely not a great installment of this supposed Knives Out franchise that they are creating. So I'm giving it 2 popcorn buckets. It's definitely bottom tier of 2025. But if you want to check it out, if you're a fan of Daniel Craig or a fan of Knives Out in general or any of the cast members in this movie, go ahead and check it out on Netflix. That is where it's currently streaming. And then finally, we have our last reaction before we get into today's featured film, and that is It, Welcome to Derry. This is the newest installment in the It franchise that has been started by HBO and Warner Brothers. This is a fantastic show. I kind of already mentioned it already, but every episode, every week, got even better and better and better. And that's why I was able to watch this week to week to week in anticipation to see how are they going to top last week's episode. It was almost like the same feeling we got when Game of Thrones was going on, or House of the Dragon, or Breaking Bad, where like every week you're like, how are they going to top that one? Because that episode was the greatest. And this is probably the best Bill Skarsgård's version of Pennywise that we've gotten. He's fantastic in here. So to give you kind of a brief synopsis of this, in the year 1962, a couple with their son moved to Derry, Maine, just as a young boy disappears. With their arrival, very bad things begin to happen in the town. This, of course, builds on that timeline of every 27 years, this creature, this Pennywise, pops up and takes a bunch of kids, and then eventually goes and hibernates and eats off of those kids over the next 27 years. As the show gets moving, it starts to reveal that some of these kids are actually the parents of the movie version of the Luja Cubs. So like we get Richie's mother in here, which was fantastic. We actually get to see, I think it was Betty, if I remember right. Let me pull that up. I don't want to get this wrong. I haven't seen the movies in a while. Beverly. So we actually get to see Beverly at the end of this movie, which links the show and the movies pretty obviously. But when that reveal came that Richie's mom was actually Marge, that's where the curtain really got pulled back. We're like, oh, okay, this is setting up the movies, which is really, really cool. And like I said, Bill Skarsgård is fantastic in here. I think this is the best version of Pennywise that we've gotten. We got to dive a little bit into his origins, which was really cool, where he started out as a circus clown, and then the creature that came to space overtook his body, and then this is how he's been the entire time. We get some more backstory from the creature itself, where it has been in Derry for a very, very long time, and it's been kind of haunting the forest for a while, and it's really, really cool. I love the effects of the violence, the intensity, the dramatic events that the kids go through, like the visions they see, like that scene where who was it? I think it was Ronnie. Whereas basically it was like a reverse birthing, which was kind of weird, where she kind of gets rebirthed again from her own mother, but then the umbilical cord is still stuck to her, so she's like getting sucked back into her mother's body. It was just a really gruesome scene to watch, but really, really well done, like effects wise. And that's what really makes this show awesome, is like it didn't hold back. Like it actually showed you kids getting murdered. Like we see what was his name, Rich, actually die protecting Marge, and that scene was very torn apart by a lot of audiences, but I think it was really well done, where he sacrificed himself to save her by laying his body on top of the little like cooler thing that she was hiding in to protect her from the fire and the smoke, and then he obviously suffocated from that smoke. which was very, very gruesome to watch a kid die like that. But then we also get that theater scene where these kids get eaten alive pretty much by the creature that eventually becomes Pennywise. And it's really, really awesome. It's a really great show. Definitely check it out on HBO. Looking at the popcorn scale and the ranking, this is number one on the It ranking for me. Like, I really love the two movies that we've gotten, but Welcome to Derry, I think, is the top one for sure. Let me pull up my It ranking here. So I got Welcome to Derry at number one. I've got the first It movie from 2017 at number two, and then It Chapter 2 from 2019 at number three. So that is the It franchise so far. I'm very excited to see what else they do with this franchise. Season 2 looks like it's set to come out in 2027. I think the original plan was to have a 3-season arc. Will they go past 4 or 5? I guess only time will tell, similar to Alien Earth. But I'm very excited for season 2. They definitely left the door wide open to do practically anything they want in setting up the movies. I believe they're also working on a sequel to It Chapter 2, which is very, very exciting as well. So they're starting to really expand this It franchise, and I'm super, super excited for it. I love this franchise. So check out It, Welcome to Derry. All the 8 episodes are currently streaming right now on HBO Max, and then look for season 2 coming out in 2027. So that'll wrap up today's news and reactions. Let's get to today's featured film, Iron Man 3, where we'll be kicking off phase 2 of the MCU.
Got a lot of apologies to make. Nothing's been the same since New York. You experience things, and then they're over. I can't sleep. And when I do, I have nightmares. Honestly, there's 100 people who want to kill me. I hope I can protect the one thing I can't live without.
Children, sheep. Some people call me a terrorist. I consider myself a teacher. Lesson number 1. Heroes. There is no such thing.
All right, so Iron Man 3. This is funny that we're doing it right now because this is a Christmas movie. Like, it happens on Christmas. There's Christmas music. There's Christmas decorations. Tony is very merry and wishing everybody a happy Christmas. Like, this is a Christmas movie. Now, I know the argument can be made like, well, this is kind of like Die Hard, where it just happens around Christmas, but it's not actually a Christmas movie. I think of this as a Christmas movie. It's really, really enjoyable. I think it's one of the more underrated movies in the MCU. I know we've had 50 plus projects already, and I think this one gets left in the dust a lot, but I really, really like it. This one, Tony ends up getting torn apart by a formidable terrorist called the Mandarin. He then starts an odyssey of rebuilding and retribution. So the big thing in here, and this is something Marvel hasn't done when this movie came out, and that is they tackle a real thing that people suffer with every day, and that is PTSD. Tony has major PTSD from the events of the new Battle of New York in the Avengers movies, which is a pretty much a direct sequel to the Avenger movie that came out the year prior. So I thought that was a fascinating choice to tackle by the director Shane Black, who we will talk about in a little bit once we go through the cast and all that. But this movie was kind of groundbreaking for Marvel because they dove into this real issue that a lot of people suffer through every day, and it made Tony very human. You know, we have characters like Thor, who's a god, the Incredible Hulk, who is arguably half god in a way. You have Captain America, who's this pure soldier who wants to do what's best for the world, and then you have Tony Stark, who's just kind of figuring out his life. He's become a superhero, an icon, and then now he's dealing with this like real world shit where he can't sleep. He builds 30 plus Iron Man suits in his basement because he's going with 72 hours with no sleep, and it's because he has PTSD from the Battle of New York. And then later on, when he finally meets Thanos in Infinity War, he reveals that Thanos has been in his head this entire time since the first Avengers movie, and this is showing you kind of the ramifications of it, where he's got major PTSD in this movie. And then eventually he realizes that Pepper is the one that kind of grounds him in his rock. And he had to go through this entire adventure going up against the Mandarin and Aldrich Killian, who we'll talk about, who is actually the villain of the movie. It's a really awesome movie, and I think it's really underrated and gets lost in the dust with 50 plus projects already within the MCU, and I absolutely love it. It came out on May 3rd, 2013, like I said. The budget was about $200 million. Now, again, with these budgets, this is like production budget. You got to stack on marketing and advertisement and all that stuff. But this was a massive hit. This grossed $1.2 billion worldwide. And I'm sure, you know, coming off the heels of the Avengers, which also made $1 billion, was part of it. You know, the MCU became the MCU when the Avengers came out, and then Iron Man 3 just build on that. Now, this was distributed by Paramount, but this was the last project that an outside company, I believe, did it. After this is solely Disney Marvel, you know, making, producing, distributing these films. I'll double check that as we go through phase 2, but I'm pretty sure Paramount with Iron Man 3 was the last outside studio that distributed these movies. I'm pretty sure Disney, from this point on, distributes, produces, all that fun stuff. So, but let's dive into the cast here, and then we'll get into the director, who I think is very underrated as well. So Robert Downey Jr. Returns as Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. This is now his fourth. At the time, this was his fourth appearance as Tony Stark. At this point, he's basically become the poster child of the MCU. They built this entire universe around Robert Downey Jr., and he did a fantastic job. I love him in here. I've already caught you up on him where he's got the PTSD from the battle, and he's going through it. I love his journey through here, where you start to see that mentor father figure side of Tony, where you really get that when Spider-Man shows up in the MCU. But this was kind of like the little breadcrumbs that lead up to that, where he meets Harley Keener, who played by Ty Simpkins, the little boy that would eventually, in the comics, become Iron Lad, or whatever the heck his superhero name is in the comics. Now, there are rumors that Ty Simpkins will be coming back as Harley in Doomsday, and he will wear an Iron Man suit. I've been wanting him to come back as an Iron Man like superhero forever. He does appear at the very end of Avengers Endgame at Tony's funeral, which I thought was really touching. But I think he needs to be pulled back into the universe as one of the young Avengers or whatever you want to do with him. But he needs to come back and don a Iron Man suit for sure. So I'm super excited to hopefully get that rumor confirmed. But so I really like his journey through here, where he is kind of what's the best word to say it? He's kind of doing a lot of self-reflection on himself. You know, he's suffering through this PTSD, but he realizes that he needs help. He needs Happy Hogan. He needs Pepper Potts. He turns out he needs Harley in his life. You know, Happy Hogan, played by Jon Favreau once again. This was, of course, after the big dispute between him and Disney about contracts or creative difference or whatever. But this actually allowed him to focus more on the Happy Hogan character, which he actually loves. Like, I've seen a lot of interviews where somebody brings up Happy Hogan and it's one of his favorite characters to play. I hope he plays him more often in now future installments. He shows up later on more in the Spider-Man universes because he's connected to Peter Parker in that way. But I love Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan for sure. James Rhodes, a.k.a. Iron Patriot, played by Don Cheadle, who, again, reprises that role from Iron Man 2, replacing Terrence Howard. He is now Iron Patriot because apparently War Machine was too violent for the government, and they needed some kind of symbol that showed the world that they are a superpower, but also that they care, I guess, in a way. So they took the War Machine suit, painted it red, white, and blue, and called him Iron Patriot. I've got some fun facts surrounding that whole aspect, and I want to save those for that. So we'll get into that a little more. But Don Cheadle, I really like Don Cheadle. I think he's really awesome as Rhodey in this universe. I hope we get to see him again in Doomsday. Gwyneth Paltrow returns as Pepper Potts. She is now the official girlfriend of Tony Stark. They pretty much confirmed it in the Avengers movie, but this definitely confirms it as they're now dating. She eventually gets scooped up by Aldrich Children and kind of gets the extremis inserted in her, and she becomes a superhero. That scene at the end of the movie is really cool, where she saves Tony this time and has superpowers, basically. But before that, we get that scene where the house blows up and she's in the Iron Man suit and she's protecting him as well. So kind of like a hint to where she becomes, I think her comic book name's like Rescue. She eventually dons that iron suit in Endgame at the end. So I think hers is Rescue. But when we get to Endgame, I'll vet that and confirm it for sure. So the villain of the movie. Now, I have a whole section of today's podcast I'm going to talk about, so I'm going to hold off on that for a second. But the villain of the movie is actually Aldrich Killian, played by Guy Pearce, who I absolutely love. Guy Pearce. We haven't really talked about him on the show, so I'm going to pull up his IMDb here. He is fantastic. Memento, The Hurt Locker, The Brutalist. He's been in so many different credits. I think he was in Bloodsport with Vin Diesel. Memory with Liam Neeson, Without Remorse with Michael B. Jordan. Oh, Bloodshot, that's what it was. He was in Alien Covenant as Peter Whalen. He was also in Prometheus, I believe. Iron Man 3 as the villain. What else? The King's Speech, Animal Kingdom. He was Bedtime Stories. That's a very underrated Sandler movie. He is the antagonist Kendall in there. Hurt Locker, like I said, as Sergeant Thompson, who I absolutely love that movie. We got to do that movie on here. He was in The Count of Monte Cristo, and then Memento as Leonard, the Christopher Nolan rewind or movie in reverse. If you haven't seen that one, definitely check that one out if you want your mind melted. But Guy Pearce, great actor. But the character Aldrich Killian, I don't want to talk too much about the villain scale because I'm going to save that till the end of the episode, but I love Guy Pearce as an actor, but I have issues with this character. A lot of issues, and it kind of links to Ben Kingsley's character, Trevor Slattery, who just all right, we're gonna do this now. So the villain twist in this movie. I hated it when this movie came out in 2013. I've hated it every time I watch this movie. And then rewatching the movie for the podcast today, I still really hate it. So the twist, if you don't remember, so we get those really cool scenes with the Mandarin, played by Ben Kingsley, on TV, threatening the world, or threatening the U.S., threatening the president. Ben Kingsley did a fantastic job. Like, he's a phenomenal actor. he did a fantastic job in those video calls and those video news reports that he did to threaten the U.S. Towards the end of the movie, when Tony infiltrates Aldrich's compound, it turns out that the Mandarin is a paid actor to play this character on TV. And actually, Aldrich Killian is actually the Mandarin. He's the brains behind the organization. He's the one pulling the strings. He's the real villain of the movie. Ben Kingsley was a hired actor, and he's a goofball. Like, I get it. They went comedic with it. They wanted to throw audiences off. They wanted to make it funny. He's goofy. He's annoying. He's disgusting because you get that bathroom scene. You know what I'm talking about. And he's just a goofball, and it just ruins this awesome character. Now, eventually they have to like retcon this crap because eventually we get introduced to like the real Ten Rings with the Shang-Chi movie. But this is just, and I love Shane Black, but this was just poorly thought out and poorly executed. It's just, I do not like the Mandarin twist. I don't like it. It's just bad. It just irritates me. It makes me mad because the Mandarin was really, really well done on those video calls, on those news reports. You know, you get that. I'm kind of stepping on favorite quotes here, but you get that really awesome line where he talks about the fortune cookie, and he's like, a true story about fortune cookies. They look Chinese, they sound Chinese, but they're actually an American invention, which is why they're hollow, full of lies, and leave a bad taste in your mouth. Like the Mandarin, like Ben Kingsley did a fantastic job with the Mandarin, but once that twist happens, it ruins it. It puts it in a cannon and it shoots it off into space as if it was nothing. Like I wanted the Mandarin to be the Mandarin. I didn't want it to be this weird twist thing where it's actually Aldrich Killian is a Mandarin, because you get that line at the end where he's basically torn to shit. He's half naked and he's yelling at Tony, "I am the Mandarin." And it's just like, it's just poorly executed and it just wasn't entertaining to me. And I get why they did it. They wanted to throw audiences off their feet. They wanted it to be comedic and wanted Ben Kingsley to just be let loose and wild. It's just, I don't like it. I don't like the twist in here, and it ruins the villain for me. We'll talk more about that with the villain scale, but I had to get that off my chest. It still irritates me. In the theater when I saw this opening weekend and that twist happened, I'm like, I hate this movie. Like, this sucks. Like, they just totally ruined the Mandarin right in front of our eyes. And when Ben Kingsley gives this incredible performance as the real Mandarin, and it was all a joke. It sucks. It sucks. Rant over. Okay. The last casting member of the cast I wanted to mention was Jarvis. Paul Bettany returns as the voice of Jarvis, eventually becomes Vision, and is actually physically incorporated into the MCU. But for right now, he is the voice of Jarvis until he becomes Vision. But I just want to make sure he gets his flowers because he is terrific as Jarvis. Now, the director. This was directed by Shane Black. It was not directed by Jon Favreau. Shane Black, underrated director. He did Predator, The Nice Guys, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which was the movie, I guess, Jon Favreau convinced Favreau to offer the role to Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. Shane Black, I think, writes all of the movies that he directs. There might be a few that he didn't, but he's a very, very awesome actor. He's been a part of the Predator franchise, The Nice Guys, which I think is an underrated movie. I really, really like that one with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. Iron Man 3, of course. Kick Six Bang Bang, I think, is very underrated. I think that one gets kind of left in the dust with Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer, Michelle Monaghan, Corbin Benson from Psych, Larry Miller. Like, it's a great movie, so definitely check out Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I want to do it on the podcast because I think it needs to be given its flowers, and I absolutely love it. So, but I think Shane Black did a great job for the most part. I really love Iron Man 3. I love what he did with this. I just don't like the villain twist. I just hate it. That's just the one gripe I have there. A couple of notes here before we get into the iconic scenes. This is the start of the phase 2. Like, this was groundbreaking. Like, we got the first 6 movies. I was like, okay, cool. We got something here. Iron Man 3 comes out and like, bam, we're just shot right into the MCU. And this is the MCU now. Like, we'll get, 4 to 5, 6 movies, and then we get an Avengers movie. Now, phase 3 kind of got out of hand because I think there's like 7 or 8 projects in between Age of Ultron and Infinity War. But they kind of had like this game plan where, each hero gets their own solo movie and then they come together for an Avengers movie. That's how you do it. It's really cool. So this is the start of phase 2 leading up to the Avengers Age of Ultron, which is a sequel to the first Avengers movie. Really, really cool. I already mentioned the PTSD as a theme, but I thought that was really, really awesome that they grabbed some real shit to talk about and to have Tony really go through this PTSD phase to kind of grow as a character and a human being. I thought that was a really, really great choice. And then Tony as the mentor / father figure to Harley, of course, sets up this father figure like the relationship he has with Peter Parker, Spider-Man when he gets introduced. So this is kind of like laying the breadcrumbs or the little seeds into future father that eventually becomes a father at the end of Infinity War. So really, really awesome to see the start of Tony Stark, the father. So let's dive into iconic scenes. I got 5 of them for you this time. The first one, every time I hear Iron Man 3, this is a scene that pops in my head. Tony testing Mark 42 in the basement to Christmas music. So the Mark 42 is, I think this is probably my favorite suit that he's worn. I know the Nano one in Infinity War is pretty freaking awesome, but I think Mark 42 is my favorite. It's got really cool color scheme to it. It's the one that he injects the sensors into his arms so that the suit can fly around and come to him piece by piece and build around him. It was a really cool effect as he first gets the glove on and you see it like build around his wrist. And then eventually the shoulder pad comes on and it builds downward and connects to the arm. It was really, really cool effects and a really fun way to kind of play with the suit, because the suit itself is a character in the MCU, and it's really, really awesome. I love that scene where he's got Christmas music playing around, he's dancing, he's like, all right, let's test out this slowly. He goes, okay, I got this, feeling kind of cocky. And then Jarvis just lets loose and he's got to do some acrobatic stuff to get all the pieces on. It's really, really cool. I love that scene where we're seeing this new Mark 42. Then we have Tony meets Harley after the Malibu mansion gets blown up and he has to go into hiding in Kentucky, I believe it was. And this is where he meets Harley, who is this kind of loner with no really any friends, but he ends up making a friend with Tony. It's somebody for Tony to talk to, basically, but in a cute way, where he gets kind of like a buddy in crime, where they try to solve these mysterious explosions around the area. It turns out that they are extremis experiments, and I'll talk about extremis a little bit here in a second. But yeah, I love this relationship that he grows with Harley. You got to imagine that throughout the years within the MCU, they still talk to each other. I wish we would have gotten more than just this movie of them interacting with each other. But yeah, I think that's really cool. I love that scene where he's basically plays it off as if he's just a mechanic to Iron Man. He doesn't really expose his true identity to Harley, even though Harley kind of figures it out eventually that Tony Stark is Iron Man. But it's really cool. I love that scene and that little workshop barn that he kind of hangs out in with his potato gun. The next one I have is Mark 42 attacking Pepper. This is where shit gets real. So Tony is obviously having a nightmare. He's still got the implants in his arm, so the Iron Man suit is always activated to him. It goes into the defense mode once Tony is having a PTSD-ridden nightmare, and Pepper's kind of waking up and she's shaking him. She's like, Tony, what's wrong? Mark 42, of course, seeing that as an attack on its protector. So it ends up grabbing Pepper. Tony freaks out and he goes, shut down. And then he does his little thing to break it into pieces. And it really pisses out Pepper, which rightfully so. I mean, that's a terrifying sight to have a Iron Man suit attack you in the middle of the night. But that's definitely a scene that comes to mind when I hear the title Iron Man 3. Next, I have Tony escaping the compound, Home Alone style. This is great, where he's makeshifting all these different weapons. He's got the Christmas ornaments, but they explode and shoot like shards of glass or nails out. He's got the glove that electrocutes people when he touches them. He's got the staple gun looking thing. It's really cool how he infiltrates this compound to save Rhodey, Home Alone style. It's really, really fun. I really love it. That's probably my favorite scene next to the Mark 42 testing at the very beginning of the movie. I really, really like that Home Alone style compound attack. It's really, really awesome. Then we have the Iron Legion battle to wrap things up. This is where they go to the shipping container yard. Aldrich Killian's goons are attacking Tony and Rhodey as they try to save the president and Pepper. It turns out Tony has been building this Iron Legion in his basement, and they all show up. There's 30 suits that he kind of jumps around in different situations. So he's hopping from suit to suit to suit. I love that scene, that part where Rhodey's like, okay, give me a suit, bring it, baby. And Tony just kind of stares at him with a blank look, just goes, oh, I'm sorry, they're just encoded to me. You're going to have to either go get your own suit or fight with your hands. Well, it turns out the president was kidnapped and stuck into the Iron Patriot suit, so Rhodey's able to save the president and get back into the Iron Patriot suit. But yeah, I had to include the Iron Legion battle because it's really, really fun seeing all those different Iron Man suits that he created. They all have their own little personalities or different gadgets that help each other out in different situations. I thought about putting the Air Force One attack on there. That's definitely honorable mention. Where I don't know his name, but the head goon for Aldrich Killian infiltrates Air Force One by taking Rhodey's Iron Patriot suit and kidnapping the president in there. So that was an honorable mention one for sure. But those are the 5 that I think of first when I hear Iron Man 3 get talked about. Favorite quote. About 80% of these are Tony. So this is a very Tony Stark-centered movie. This is his movie. I know it's called Iron Man 3, and it's probably dumb for me to say, but this is truly Tony's movie. So most of the quotes are coming from him. So this first one, I could tell. You know how I could tell? Because we were connected. I love that scene with him and Harley as he's leaving. Another one, my armor was never a distraction or a hobby. It was a cocoon. And now I'm a changed man. You could take away my house, all my tricks and toys, but one thing you can't take away, I am Iron Man, which is a great way to end it. They kind of ended Iron Man 3 as if this was the last solo Iron Man movie we're getting, and they were right. That this is the last solo one. He pops up in Avengers Age of Ultron. He's basically the co-star to Chris Evans in Avengers Civil War. He shows up in the Spider-Man movie, and then eventually he's basically the star in the Infinity War and Endgame movies, and that was it. So this was the last Iron Man solo movie, and they kind of ended it that way. 2 more here from Tony. No, you're in a relationship with me. Nothing will ever be okay. That's great. And then this one, you walked right into this one. I've dated hotter chicks than you, as he shoves an exploding microwave at her. That was great. We have an aim guard. Honestly, I hate working here. They are so weird. So that scene where he's tied up to the bed and eventually Mark 42 comes in and helps him, and he's able to defeat the couple goons that are around him, and he gets to the last guy, and he's ready to, blast him with his beams. And the guy's just like, honestly, I hate working here. They are so weird. Drops the machine gun and runs. Very, very funny moment there. This one from Harley. Well, my mom already left for the diner, and Dad went to 7-Eleven to get scratchers. I guess he won because that was 6 years ago. It's a funny line, but it's a very sad line. I love that. Love that one from Harley. And then I already mentioned this one from the Mandarin, but a true story about fortune cookies. They look Chinese, they sound Chinese, but they're actually American invention, which is why they're hollow, full of lies, and leave a bad taste in the mouth. That was my terrible Mandarin impression. Fun facts. Got a few of them here for you. When Maya, Tony, and Pepper are discussing the huge stuffed bunny in the living room, Tony has a hung stocking for Jarvis. The stocking was the same colors as Vision, which eventually comes to life in Age of Ultron by Tony and Bruce Banner. He is the android version of the AI Jarvis. The ring on the Mandarin's right pinky is the same one Raza wore in Iron Man, which is the guy that kidnapped Tony in the cave. So that was a really cool link there. The Mandarin bears a tattoo on the back of his neck of Captain America's shield with an anarchist A symbol in the center instead of a star. I'm going to have to go back and re-watch that. I guess I never noticed that. The first cut of the movie was 3 hours and 15 minutes long. The final cut ended up being 2 hours and 10 minutes. Please release the Shane Black cut of Iron Man 3. I want to see that 3-hour cut. AIM, which is Advanced Idea Mechanics, is a scientific organization headed by Aldrich Killian, played by Guy Pearce. In the comics, it was a straightforward terrorist organization and the evil counterpart to S.H.I.E.L.D., which originally was an offshoot of Captain America's World War II enemy, Hydra. I think we only get AIM in this movie. So, which is kind of... Well, no, we really get Hammer Industries. But AIM is really only mentioned in this one. Afterwards, we get into Hydra more. In the comics, the Iron Patriot was an alias used by Spider-Man's nemesis, the Green Goblin. In this movie, it is War Machine painted in a resemblance of Captain America's suit. Kevin Feige described it as a post the Avengers government response. These crazy heroes saved the day, not the government. The government felt they needed a hero of their own. They have a military officer that has one of these suits, and they painted red, white, and blue. It gave us a place to go with Rhodey and his split loyalties between his friend and his duty. And you also get to be reminded of the trust and friendship between Rhodey and Stark in great buddy cop fashion. Totally get it. It makes sense to incorporate Iron Patriot as the James Rhodes character versus Green Goblin. So I totally back Kevin Feige's decision here to kind of tweak the Iron Patriot character from the comics. The dragon tattoo on Aldrich Killian's chest are another Iron Man villain, Fing Fang Foom. So they stole that from him. Interesting. Originally, this movie was intended to start with flashbacks of Tony's youth. Another idea considered was to start this movie with Tony landing in Tennessee, and another had Tony cleaning up landmines with the Stark logo on them. Oh, yeah, he went to Tennessee, not Kentucky. I don't know why I had Kentucky in my head. As an allusion to the many explosive elements from his past waiting to detonate. I like how they started this movie with the testing of Mark 42 and revealing that he hasn't slept in 72 hours. I thought that was great. This is the film debut of Jenna Ortega. She plays the vice president's daughter. All her lines were cut out. She was the one in the wheelchair with the missing leg. That is why the vice president wanted to join the extremist program to bring back his daughter's leg. Shane Black described this movie as a Tom Clancy thriller with a focus on real-world type villains and not two men in iron suits fighting each other. And then this is the first Marvel Cinematic Universe movie to be shot entirely digitally. So yeah, that wraps up Iron Man 3. So Extremis. If you're not familiar with Extremis, I haven't really talked about it because I'm not too familiar with that whole part of the comic book lore in Iron Man, and the extremist part of this movie isn't very entertaining. This movie takes a lot of different comic books together, like the extremist line, um, the Mandarin storyline from the comics, and just kind of shoves them into one. So the extremist is basically a program where what's a nice way to say it? Mutilated soldiers from war. If they're missing an arm, missing a leg, they get injected with this extremist program, and they're able to grow back those limbs, basically. But they're given these like fire powers, I guess. And what gets Tony on this investigation of Aldrich, Killian, and AIM is some of these people are having side effects of that extremis and exploding and basically becoming suicide bombers. We get that scene where Tony is following one of them, or Happy, and Happy ends up being greatly injured during one of those explosions. So it's kind of the Mandarin's way of making suicide bombers. I just never really cared for the extremist part of this movie. I really just wanted Tony to go up against the Mandarin. Like, I love Guy Pearce, but his character was just kind of poorly written and just irrelevant most of the time. And I'm not a fan of the extremist storyline of this movie. It's just nothing I really enjoyed. So, but speaking of Guy Pearce, let's head over to the ranking segment of today's show, where we'll talk about the MCU ranking, the villain scale, and then the popcorn scale. So first up, we have the MCU ranking. I'm going to pull up that list. I'm not going to go through the entire list, but we're going to discuss a little bit briefly around where Iron Man 3 falls. So Iron Man 3 falls at number 33 on the list. It moved up a little bit. I believe I had it at like 37 or 36. So looking around it, so right below it, we got Doctor Strange at 34. Iron Man 2 is at 35. Captain America, the First Avenger at 36. Captain America, Brave New World at 37. Thor at 38. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever at 39. And then the Ironheart series wrapping up the 40. Slightly above it, we've got Black Widow at 32. Avengers Age of Ultron at 31. And then Loki Season 2 at 30. So it's not quite at the halfway mark, but I tried to move it up further, but I just couldn't, because I just didn't really care about the extremist storyline, and I really don't like the villain twist in here. I think those two things really hold it back from it being an even greater movie, but I really do like it. I think it's very underrated. I couldn't go past 33 with this one, but I think 33 is pretty fair considering there's 42 on the list. So it's definitely not a horrible spot to be for a third Iron Man movie. So number 33 is the ranking spot for that. The villain scale. So to kind of refresh everybody, if you're not familiar with the villain scale, this is looking at the villain of the movie and ranking it based on the motivation as the villain, the performance by the actor/actress, and the costume. Starting with the costume, pretty normal clothing. We do get that scene I already mentioned at the end of the movie where we reveal that he's got these dragon tattoos, which I think were freaking ridiculous. Guy Pearce is a good-looking guy. I mean, the hair was pretty cool. He was kind of creepy and villainous, but the costume itself was just kind of boring and really unnecessary, especially the tattoos. Not a fan. The motivation. World dominance, I guess. He's just not a greatly written character. It's just he makes it seem like he wants to enhance the world through science, but then he teams up with this mass terrorist and just starts creating suicide bombers by accident. And it's just, I guess world dominance is his motivation. It's just kind of poorly written. And then the performance. I think Guy Pearce did a fine job with the performance. Definitely overacted quite a bit towards the end, especially when he was fighting Tony. I do enjoy the cocky, arrogant remarks that he made about, oh, I would have saved her, or oh, she doesn't deserve you, Tony. She deserves me. I'm a rich, smart guy who built this program, and he's just really, really cocky and arrogant. And the performance was fine. I think Guy Pearce did the best that he could with how the character was written and what kind of direction they were going with. With all that said, I'm giving it 2 Thanos heads. Not horrible. Like it's not as bad as 1. I thought about going down to 1, but the performance by Guy Pearce saves it a little bit. So I'm going to go 2. I can't go any higher than that. So 2 Thanos heads for Aldrich Killian / the Mandarin. I just really hate that freaking villain twist. God, really pisses me off. And then lastly, the popcorn scale for Iron Man 3. That's 4 popcorn buckets. I thought about going 5, but I just couldn't get it there with Guy Pearce and with the villain twist, and just the extremist part of this storyline was rather boring. But I love everything else. I love Robert Downey's performance in here. I love Pepper Potts in here. Rhodey was entertaining. The relationship between Harley was great. The few scenes that Jon Favreau had were awesome. So I'm going to give it 4 popcorn buckets on the scale. So that does it for Iron Man 3. We have closed the book on the beginning of Phase 2, and we will continue through Phase 2. What is the next Phase 2 movie? This is where I start to get the timeline a little mixed. I think it's Thor: The Dark World. Let me check this out here. When did that? Yep, it came out the same year. So Thor: The Dark World will be next Friday's film. Avatar: Fire and Ash comes out this weekend. So we will get a review episode probably next weekend, Saturday, Sunday, somewhere in there. I'll release it because of the holiday coming up. Speaking of the holiday, we do have our Christmas show. The first annual Cinematic Reviews Christmas show will be dropping on Christmas Eve. That movie will be Jingle All the Way, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm very, very excited for that to be the first movie on the Cinematic Christmas show. So we will be talking about that one, as well as some of the other new release reactions I'll do on there. And then I'll go through my top 5 favorite Christmas movies of all time in the ranking segment for that episode. So Jingle All the Way will be the featured film of the Cinematic Christmas show that will drop on Christmas Eve, so you can watch it with your family as you gather around the tree and eat a bunch of cookies. Also, check out the football podcast that I do as well, the End Zone Report. We will be releasing Week 15's episode probably Sunday morning before the games start. It's been a crazy week schedule-wise for me, so that is a little bit behind. We've already had one game where the Rams faced off against the Seahawks on Thursday, but we'll get that episode out to you tomorrow. So that does it for today's show. Happy holidays to everybody. I hope you get all your shopping done, but please make sure you take some time to spend some time with your family, friends, and celebrate the holidays. I'll see you all next time on the show.